everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, Stream King, the Far Cry guy, the man who may cry devil, and the assassin.
I don't cry devil anymore.
I don't know. I don't have a good one for assassin yet, so I'll come back to that. You haven't finished Unity yet, so I've got time, but it's there. It's Steven.
Was that all the title?
That was the title.
The Stream King, the Far Cry guy, the assassin who I don't have anything good for assassin yet.
You haven't beaten it yet.
So I'm just gonna say right now,
yes,
you haven't beaten Unity yet.
Title.
So I guess that's it, Steven.
That's him.
Hey, how's it going? I'm here. It's me.
It's going good. How about you? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Staying busy. A lot of just projects to do. Forward compatible is somehow less stressful and more stressful at the same time because I never escape it. You know, it's just always happening.
That's what happens when there's a month-long thing, and I still haven't gotten the review for BioShock done, and I apologize, but that's because I've been working on several outdoor projects, which I'll talk about in catch-up, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chortlecast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about, and we've got a great show for you. A lot of news this week. We're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima. We're going to talk about Control's next expansion. We're going to talk about Tony Hawk. We're going to talk about Ubisoft, and we're going to talk a little bit about Paper Mario. So lots and lots of stuff. Steven's been playing other Assassin's Creed games that he's going to talk about, and then I've been working in the yard, and I'm incredibly sore. So that's what this podcast is going to be about, and we hope you'll stick around with it. The podcast airs every Monday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time on YouTube at ChortleGames.com, Facebook at Chortle Games, and not Twitch. But if you go follow us on Twitch, you can watch us live stream. So there you go. Anyway, what were you about to say, Steven?
I actually have met. I was just gonna say that be ready for a lot of Assassin's Creed complaining probably in catch up, but I actually have met a couple guys on Twitch doing Unity, so that's been really cool. I've never really made connections with Twitch on Twitch before, but there's a guy. I think RZ Fresh was his name. He did some co-op missions with me on Unity.
Oh, cool.
So he was really cool. I met a guy named Loco who watched one of my most recent streams, and he and I are going to play some co-op sometime. So it's been Twitch has life now, kind of.
It does. It does. It just, we had to be there for a little while. We had to roll with it.
Yep.
The problem with Twitch is, I think people.
It's awful.
I wasn't going to say that. I'm starting to. Twitch is starting to grow on me as a user, but I think the problem with gaining an audience on Twitch is that you have to play the same thing for a longer period of time to kind of gain traction, and then if people decide they like you, they'll follow you through whatever you play. Whereas on YouTube, we've just kind of always been personalities playing games. And I think that works better on YouTube than it does on Twitch. But anyway, I digress.
Twitch just seems so unintuitive. But speaking of Twitch, that was your cue to transition because I got nothing.
I was waiting for you to say what I was transitioning to. Speaking of Twitch, let's talk about Control. You got to Twitch. You need to learn Control.
Don't you hate it when your hand twitches and you don't have much control over it? Speaking of Twitch control. Here's
Control. So let's just jump into the news. So Control's next expansion, which has been titled AWE, and we've been wondering what that was going to be about. A lot of people had rumored, is it going to be about Alan Wake? Is it going to be the Alan Wake expansion? But it has now come out via, I guess, Remedy. Remedy. The creative director and writer, Sam Lake, has said that we can expect to learn... we can expect to learn much more about the Federal Bureau of Control's research into the Bright Falls incident when playing through the expansion AWE. So, Steven, as the Alan Wake professional in the room. What do you make of all this? Are you excited?
So this week, I guess last week by the time this airs, last week marked 10 years since Alan Wake came out, which I imagine is why they're moving towards announcing, confirming the connections of the AWE expansion and kind of pushing towards furthering that narrative, which is great because it left on a huge cliffhanger.
Right.
But I'm torn a little bit because I love Remedy. I absolutely adore that studio. But I have a hard time with Control because with the other games that they've done, I was able to connect with the character, and with Control, I love absolutely everything about the game except for Jessie Faden. I cannot stand Jessie Faden because she is so stale and flat as a character. And so I'm over here just trying to muster the drive to get through it, Control. Because for me, I have a hard time playing these kinds of games when I can't connect to the character that I'm playing as. And I didn't realize that was as big of a deal until I played Control, because literally everything else, I even said, and I stand by this, when Control came out, I was like, if it wasn't for Jessie, this might have ended up in my top 5 games of all time. And I hate that. But all that to be said, I love where the franchise is right now as a whole. And when I say franchise, I don't mean Control. I mean just Remedy and
Remedy's extended world, their extended universe, if you will.
Their extended universe, yes. Because I love the concept of the FBC. And the fact that this is about the FBC, the AWE expansion, is about their investigation into Bright Falls. Bright Falls being the town that you go to in Alan Wake. And they considered the whole, basically everything that happened in the Alan Wake game, they considered to be an altered world event, which is basically something supernatural that happened, which is why they ended up with Alan's coffee thermos, some pages of his manuscript, and his typewriter. So the FBC was all over that, but we get to see what what conclusion they came to, but also we get to see where that goes from here, because I have a theory that there's typically 3 schools of thought with this AWE expansion. One, the most obvious, that it stands for Altered World Event. Because in the lore of Control, the FBC has referred to Altered World Events as AWEs as just shorthand. Then there's the other school of thought, which is it is a misdirect. Basically, the most obvious would be Altered World Event, and knowing Remedy, it would the fact that it could be that is a misdirect to what it actually represents. And so the second school of thought is that it stands for Alan Wake expansion.
Right. And now we know that's what it's going to be.
Yes, but I disagree with that being its true meaning, because I think that it was a double misdirect. Because I think that they called it AWE, expecting people to be like, "Oh, it stands for Altered World Event," and then other people would be like, "No, it stands for Alan Wake Expansion." If they intended for it being Alan Wake Expansion to be like the big twist, then my curtains just fell over. If they intended for that to happen, then they wouldn't have shown the picture of Alan Wake in the promotion for AWE. So to me, it stands for something else. I think, and only people who have actually played Alan Wake or have watched the review will even know what I'm talking about here. But I think it stands for Alan Wake Escapes.
Right, you've talked about this before.
Yeah, because right now, the most recent place that Alan was in the story was he was trapped in the darkness, and an entity called Mr. Scratch was taking his place in the real world. Right. Basically doing all these awful things. But that's American Nightmare. That's not straight up Alan Wake. So my thought is Jessie and the FBC are going to go down there, investigate or whatever, and somehow we are going to confront the darkness, and Alan is going to reach out from the other side because he's trapped in the darkness, I think. It's a lot of interpretation. And I think Jesse is going to work with Alan somehow to overcome it in that moment, and he is going to get out, opening the door for an Alan Wake sequel, which is something that people have been basically begging for 10 years.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited, like you've already said, just to see it from the Federal Bureau, from their side point of view, you know, where they're taking, they're analyzing all of this stuff that's happening, and basically just to explain it, you know. Alan Wake is so, not confusing, but just like ambiguous, and it's there's a lot of weird stuff happening. I'm excited to, even though it's going to be a weird explanation, I'm excited to get some sort of explanation about what happened there.
Yeah, as much as I love Alan's point of view, and I think I said this in my forward compatible review. If you haven't watched my forward compatible review of Alan Wake, I'm actually really proud of it. So you should watch it.
It's a good one.
But Alan is essentially, even though we trust him and we should, he is still an unreliable narrator, because the entire story is told through his eyes, and he is both the star and the writer. So, and it was kind of my like, I encourage people to think, what if all of the story of Alan Wake, all of the characters we interacted with and everything, what if they were written that way by Alan in the time when he was writing the manuscript, because he knew that, because the darkness was his editor, basically, and he was trying to basically buy time by writing this story until he found a way out. And so what if the story that he was writing, he knew, because he met all of these characters on his first day in Bright Falls. Some of them he only saw, and some of them he actually got to know them as people a little bit. What if he took every single one of those people and rewrote them into his story and used them as pawns? So getting a different perspective, because since the Bright Falls incident, from Alan's perspective, we really have to kind of look at it in a bottle. We don't know anything about Bright Falls before or after, really. So seeing the FBC's perspective, coming in with all this research of like, here are these people from Bright Falls, here's their file, basically seeing the aftermath and everything, we may get more depth on Bright Falls and see if Alan really did rewrite the town and its people, stuff like that. And I'm super stoked about that, because that's going to answer a lot of questions. I feel like it's going to be more of, it's not going to go with that. I feel like they're just gonna be like, oh no, these people were always this way.
Right.
But how cool would it be if the FBC came to the realization that everyone in Bright Falls was fundamentally changed during that 7 days?
That's crazy. That would be
so
cool.
Awesome.
Speaking of things that are so cool, let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima. Otherwise,
Tsushima.
Fondly remembered as Ghost of Toshiba here on Chortle Games. I made a meme. It was great. If you weren't here,
it was a good meme.
It was a great meme.
It was a good meme.
Great meme. So PlayStation has finally showed more of Ghost of Tsushima. Very, very exciting gameplay. I don't. There's a lot in this, so I don't want to go detail by detail. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it.
I did watch it, by the way.
You did? Good. Okay.
I did get the opportunity to go back and watch it, and I'm so glad I did.
Oh, man. So I'm just going to top level kind of what my thoughts were, and then, Steven, I want to hear your thoughts as well.
Yes.
My top level thoughts when it first started, I was just like, oh, wow, I can't wait for this game. He's got his little hat. He's got a cape. I'm excited. Look at those swords. And the very first thing they show is they talked about exploration in the world. And so they were like, how can we innovate on, helping you find things in a natural and thematic way, instead of just having a glowing path to where you need to go, which is what a lot of games do. And so they say that, and then they kind of spin around and they hit a button and the wind starts blowing. And so this huge gust of wind blows towards your waypoint on the map. And so they call it the guiding wind. So like they've literally created a system where the wind guides you where you're supposed to go.
So It took me a second because when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's cool, that's unique. And then they started expanding on that, where they were like, pay attention to the world. The rising smokestacks off to the distance, or the birds may guide you to a person, or the fox will guide you to a shrine. And I realized, holy crap, this game is innovating. Like, it's probably its most important innovation that Ghost of Tsushima is going to try. It is getting rid of game HUDs.
Absolutely. And that's and you know, as we go down to the rest of the things they show, I think a lot of people's complaints are this game it just looks like a rehash of a lot of other things, like kind of a mix of Assassin's Creed with Sekiro and things like that. But absolutely, their biggest innovation so far. This is just a gameplay demo, right? And then not only that, this is like one of the first gameplay demos that they've really done an extensive gameplay demo. That is the way you explore the world is the coolest thing. Yeah, when you're talking about the bird, when the bird flew up and then fluttered off and he followed it, I was just like, this is so cool. And then the freaking fox shows up and the fox leads you somewhere. And I'm like, this is a game for me. Yeah. You can pet the fox. That's a very important detail that I want to make sure we reference.
So it's crazy to me. Because after watching that whole gameplay demo, and I loved all of it. I thought it was awesome. It looked great. It sounds great, and I know they're going to deliver. But when I first saw, when they showed that first gameplay bit at E3, whenever that was, I loved the way they portrayed samurai combat because it was very deliberate, no wasted movement, and it made very heavy use of like the lethal draw where you could kill enemies with one draw of the blade, which is so samurai. But I walked away from this gameplay feature surprised by this because I'm super excited about the samurai combat. It looks awesome. But the thing I am most excited about is just being in this world because the parts where I was the most engaged was when Jin was on the screen just looking around or riding his horse or walking or whatever and just seeing the colors and how everything contrasted so well. Like the bird, when it flew up, it was the only yellow thing on screen, but it felt natural because it was just a bird flying. You're like, oh, I should follow that. But it didn't feel like here's a quest marker bird. It just felt like a bird. And so their use of color looks like it's going to be insane. And I appreciate that they did the film grain thing that we'll probably talk about in a second. But there's no way I'm playing with that thing on because this game looks too pretty and too colorful and vibrant.
That's while we're here, let's just talk about that. So yeah, they're doing a lot to give players choice of how they want to experience the game. There's like you're mentioning, there's a film grain, black and white. I think they called it Samurai Cinema mode or something like that.
Yep.
And it basically just is very much an homage to samurai cinema and just movies about samurai and that sort of thing. So you can play the game like an old movie would look. The photo mode where you can incorporate wind movement and you can change the particles and stuff, like that's all really, really, really cool. How they're doing all that. I want to backtrack and let's talk about combat a little bit. You mentioned, you're so excited to be a samurai and all this sort of stuff. Since we've heard about the game, obviously the name of the game, Ghost of Tsushima, he is the ghost. He was a samurai who was defeated and is now trying to defend his homeland. And to do that, he's going to have to go beyond his samurai training and become the ghost and use unhonorable tactics to take on his enemies. And so they showed kind of what that looks like and what the difference in that is. So they showed some samurai. They showed a base that Jin took on first as a samurai and then next as a ghost. And so very, very cool. Obviously, the samurai walks straight in, challenges them to a fight, and starts fighting people. He's deflecting arrows with his katana. That was really cool.
Changing sword stances.
That was really cool.
Because it was subtle. It was subtle, and they didn't mention it. They just had like a little line of dialogue at the bottom that said, Jin can change sword stances for the best situation. Yep. And and it just looked so fluid and so right.
Yep. That was very exciting. The thing I still am curious. Well, so I'll continue. So that looked really, really cool. They fought that, and then from that, so we really just saw him fighting as a samurai. We didn't really see him complete that mission as a samurai. So I'm curious what if he had. I don't think he had the same goal as the ghost or the ninja, but
it was the same base, but I don't know if it was the same. Yeah, like you said, end goal.
Because it looked like as the samurai, he just had to kill the captain of the area or whatever.
That's probably what it was, because they mention during the Ghost gameplay that like an important tactic of the Ghost is fear. That the Mongols grow to fear you. And so with the samurai thing, it was probably doing the samurai approach is probably going in, challenging to honorable combat, sending a message that way. And with the Ghost, it's basically making them terrified by going in, laying waste, and dismantling them at night, so that you don't have to go in and do the honorable thing. I don't know. I'm interested to see what the.
So talking about the Ghost, then they did the same gameplay as the Ghost, and the Ghost is doing what you would assume a ninja would do. It does have tones of Assassin's Creed. You're tossing distractions.
It's very Assassin's Creed.
You're stabbing people from behind. You're throwing kunai, which looked really cool. That seems like it's almost an instant kill. If you get in a sticky situation, just throw out a bunch of kunai. We see him take on a harder. It's the fortress captain, and he kind of has to stun him, stab him, and then fight him some more. So there's layers to that. The thing that surprised me the most about this, and the thing that I hope will improve, but playing as the Ghost, we saw a lot of parkour happening, and it didn't look super smooth to me. And so I'm a little nervous about that, because this is Infamous developer. This is the Sly Cooper developer. Like, they wrote the book on parkour before even Assassin's Creed came around. So if they can't make it feel good and natural, I don't know what's going on anymore. So I'm hoping, and that's kind of my overarching thing, is, to me, as gorgeous as this game does look, when you watch this demo, there are things that just don't seem like they're finished, if that makes sense. Like the bird is a great example. To me, when that bird flies in, he looks very, like, not polygonal, but like, I don't know. He just doesn't look like he's fully rendered or something. So I'm hoping this is a gameplay demo, and from rumors I've heard, it's a demo that's a month late. So, I think probably more has been done since even this was made, but they haven't gone gold yet. So that's kind of what I keep telling myself. But anyway, the thing. So we got to see the two different playing styles, but what I'm more curious to know is what are the side effects of those play styles. And we know from different demos and different articles about the game that people will treat you differently and react to you differently if you're dressed as a samurai or as a ninja or as the Ghost. And I want to see more of that. And what does that mean? And
I assume that if it's like, this is just me theory crafting, but I assume that if it is very much an optional thing, like if and I didn't get this impression. I got the impression that you will be doing both, whether you like it or not. Yeah. But the amount that you do them is up to you, I guess. But my assumption would be that playing the samurai will garner you more allies, or possibly keep you in favor of your peers or other samurai or whatever, because you'll be held in high regard and honor. But as the Ghost, the Mongols will be more fearful, and you'll basically have weaker enemies, but you'll have fewer allies or something like that. That's kind of an impression I'm getting.
Yeah. Well, see, and I'm just going off of, the most recent thing they did was Infamous, right? And in Infamous, you have a good path, a hero path, and then a villain path. And your powers and how the story progresses is different depending on what path you choose. So I'm kind of in your ballpark, Steve, and I think you're going to be playing as a samurai and a Ghost, whether you like it or not. It's just how much you do of one and what you do as both is going to matter. But I hope you're right in that we are going to get to play both, because it sounds like the samurai is going to be the more honorable, righteous path, which is what I would normally want my game, like my playthrough to be.
Right.
But I really want to be the ghost. You know what I mean? I want to play as the ghost, but
if it is like a morality system where it's like you've got a ghost playthrough, you've got a samurai playthrough, all that kind of stuff, I'm probably going to go full samurai.
that's what I want to do first, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'll do a fun ghost playthrough afterwards. But I hope it doesn't end up being that way, because I want to do both, but still, I don't know, retain honor or something. I just hope the choices lie elsewhere. Like, if I could be the ghost, but keep it totally secret, you know what I mean? Like, be very careful about who I present the ghost to. Almost like a Batman type situation, you know, samurai by day, Batman by night kind of thing. That would be cool, but I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I think it looks great. I'm very excited to see how it plays.
To me, it looks like people said that Red Dead Redemption 2 was like the Old West simulator, and they were right. Too bad that part of that simulation was awful controls and tedious gameplay. But Ghost of Tsushima looks like it's going to be the definitive samurai simulator, while having really tight controls, and giving you almost the most immersive third-person experience that you could possibly get. Because they're like really taking you to, like, removing those walls, like we talked about earlier with the HUD. There's no mini map. There's the only time that your equipment shows up on screen is if you make like an actual change to it, or you like hit a button or something. So they're making it to where there are no more walls between you and your character. You are as immersed into Jin as you can be from a third person perspective, and I love that.
Yeah.
It really seems like it's going to change the way you tell third person stories visually.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I'm really excited. And I know it's been an optional thing in the past, but just the fact that they are making it integral to the game, where your waypoints are the guiding winds, your quest markers are the birds or the animals, and just making other visual cues. Just I'm really impressed that they have basically said, like, look, we know that we can make it a optional thing to turn off your HUD, but how cool would it be if you
didn't need a HUD?
Yeah, where we made you get sucked into this world. We are bringing you into Tsushima, and we're going to make it as much of a hands-on first-person experience, even though you're looking at your character's back.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great. July 17th.
I'm excited.
Speaking of July 17th, Nintendo shadow dropped that Paper Mario: The Origami King is launching on Switch on July 17th. Now, Steven, have you ever played a Paper Mario game?
No.
I have not either, but it's coming to Switch, so I've pre-ordered it. I'm very excited to play it. It's, from what I understand, and as just understanding what Paper Mario is, it's more of what if Mario had a story mode kind of thing. And wasn't there a Super Mario RPG or something like that was kind of an old time thing?
It was very well loved. That's where Genos comes from, or whatever his name is. And so my understanding is that Paper Mario is like the spiritual successor to that.
That's my understanding as well. So
okay.
Anyway, looks very cool. I kind of like, even though I have not played any Paper Mario, I like the idea of, or this thought process of, Paper Mario is obviously a flat 2D game that's been on the DS and the 3DS and all this and that. And so when it comes to Switch, to make it HD and 3D, they bring in origami into it. And so the villain is this origami shape that has created everything, folded all the paper into 3D. And Mario and his other 2D teammates are fighting against that to make everything flat. You team up with Bowser in this, which I think is pretty funny. You have partners and stuff. Anyway, it looks very cool. But they just kind of shadow dropped this, so I'm a little nervous that because it was a shadow drop that because this Paper Mario to me is a big Nintendo franchise, and I mean it's Mario. So I don't think they would just throw something together and push it out, but I'm a little nervous that they didn't do more of an event or make this part of a direct or something. I just hope that means they have faith in it. But maybe they have so much faith in it, they're like, oh, it doesn't need a direct. But anyway, I'm excited to try it. Steven, do you have any interest in the Paper Mario series?
Not really. I'll see it when I see it. If it looks interesting enough, I may.
I'll stream it for you. You can check it out there. It's got turn-based tactic fighting, so
it's not turn-based tactics. It's turn-based.
Okay.
No, well, I mean, Paper Mario in the past it has been like Final Fantasy style turn-based, where it's just like no movement involved. It's not isometric or anything like that.
Gotcha.
There's a difference. There's a big difference.
Big difference. Last thing to talk about that's going to be happening in July. Ubisoft has announced that they're going to be doing a Ubisoft Forward digital event in July. So this is basically their replacement for their digital E3 event. They're doing it in July. I don't know if they officially said it was going to be part of the Summer Games thing that Jeff Keighley's doing, but it looks like Jeff Keighley is just hosting everything that happens in the summer and calling it part of summer of Games Fest. So, which I think is what a lot of these guys are doing. But anyway, Ubisoft's going to do their on July 12th. It's going to be a full digital showcase with exclusive game news, reveals, and more. So, Steven, what do you think about Ubisoft Forward?
I have a love-hate relationship with Ubisoft, as we'll hear in the catch-up portion.
Yeah.
They have some of my favorite IPs, but it's also their personal objective. Like, it's their mission statement to ruin every single one of those IPs.
Yeah. Make a good one and then ruin it.
Turn pretty much any game they have into The Division, but without the point. I'm excited. I'm always excited to hear more from Ubisoft because this means we could get some more stuff for Watch Dogs Legion, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
I reluctantly am really excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla now. Especially now that they said that Hidden Blade is back and Social Stealth is back. Like a one-hit kill Hidden Blade is back, which is a big deal.
I think they're gonna do right by Valhalla. I think they're gonna take the things that they learned and experimented with in Origins and Odyssey, but dial back the scale and increase the contents and bring it back more to what Assassin's Creed used to be. Is what I'm
hope
hoping.
So. What I'm feeling, and you touched on this, we were texting, you touched on this in the texts, but I'm really thinking the more I've played Odyssey, that it really has been kind of like what Black Flag was for them, and Skull and Bones, which still hasn't come out yet. But I think Gods and Monsters is what they created Assassin's Creed Odyssey for.
Yeah. Gods and Monsters being their Breath of the Wild looking title that is based around Roman, Greek mythology. So that's one of the things they've got listed here that they'll talk about. They're going to talk about Rainbow Six Quarantine. We'll hopefully hear more about Watch Dogs Legion. Valhalla, I'm sure, will be a huge part of it. We still don't know about Beyond Good and Evil, and we still don't know about Skull and Bones. You're right about that one.
No one cares about Beyond Good and Evil.
I disagree. I think, number one, I disagree in several ways. Number one, I care about Beyond Good and Evil too, and secondly, I think there are other people.
You know why people care about Beyond Good and Evil?
Why?
Because it's a meme to care about Beyond Good and Evil. You remember that game, The Guardian, or the Last Guardian?
The one with the owls?
The one with the no, that's the movie, The Guardian. The Last Guardian, I think is what it was called. The with the big cat thing.
Oh, yeah, the dog.
Yeah. Every single year at E3, people were like, I think this is The Last Guardian's year. That game looks so good. I cannot wait for that game.
Broke my
and
PlayStation.
it took all these years.
That's the first time my PlayStation I had to initialize my PlayStation for, so I hate that game.
That's hilarious. And how many people are talking about The Last Guardian now? Like, honestly, how many people talked about Last Guardian when it came out?
I don't remember anyone.
No one.
I kind of played it as an let me just try this out. I never beat it because it broke my PlayStation. So,
Beyond Good and Evil is Ubisoft's Last Guardian. The only reason people are excited for it is because the internet tells them to be excited for it. They're just like, oh, maybe we'll finally get a release date for it because it's a meme. It's a meme at this point. So, I could not care less about the cussing monkey and his friend. Like, it looks dumb to me. It looks so freaking dumb to me. Anyway, so Splinter Cell, that's what they should really be talking about is Splinter Cell. I can't wait to see how they ruin Sam Fisher with RPG mechanics, personally. What?
Man.
You better give up that fully automatic shotgun for this purple level 34 toothpick.
Because it's
better.
Purple.
It's purple. God, I hate. They've taken this because I love games like Diablo and Division that have that like progression and the loot rarity and everything, but they've just put it in everything, and I hate it now. I don't. I actually still like it, but just, good Lord,
it is everywhere, and that's
it's too
everything
much.
Doesn't need that.
Ghost Recon has it.
You know, that's one of the things I love about PlayStation and Sony. They keep their games so, I don't know, not simple, but just like they don't follow trends, I guess is what it is. They keep making good games and trusting that people are going to enjoy the games and the story and the characters and all this and that. And they don't worry about
that's the problem. Ubisoft is so just obsessed with being relevant,
trendy.
And trendy, where they're just like, oh, people like this, just put it in everything. Maybe people will love us again. And I don't know. I'm over it.
Speaking of people loving us again, we got the first event from Jeff Keighley's Summer Fest. We actually got two, and I forgot to put this in our list of stories, Steven, so I'm going to do it next. But the first one was Jeff Keighley said, hey guys, tomorrow I'm going to have a cool game announcement, tune in, whatever, and then we're going to have an interview. And so we all tuned in. I wasn't know what to expect. And then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster or remake.
It's a remake.
Remake got announced. I pretty much tuned out after they said the title and showed skating, but you and Brody seemed really excited about it, Steven. So
look,
what do you think?
A lesser known thing about me is that back when I was really a kid, a friend of mine borrowed my copy of Pokemon Blue. You're about to get a whole story. Like, what does Pokemon Blue have to do with this? So a friend of mine borrowed my copy of Pokemon Blue, and very conservative family. Back when Pokemon was the devil, you know. And his mom found out about it, and she brought it to him, and she was like, she had it between her two fingers. Game Boy Color cartridges. Those things were beefy. They were big, and they were relatively thick. And she has it between her two fingers. She's like, "What is this?" And he's just like, "It's Pokemon." And she was just like, "Whose is this?" And he didn't want to rat me out, I guess, so he said, "It's mine." Immediately, this is how he tells it, and I believe it. She snaps it in half with her two fingers. Like, I'm talking middle finger and pointing finger. Like index finger.
Wow.
Snaps it in half. And then he comes clean and says that it was actually mine. So she forced him to buy me a game. So that game, don't know why, was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. So that's how I started playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
What?
Yeah.
The whole time you were talking, I was trying to figure out how this was going to connect back, and that was not what I was expecting.
Because I had no reason, because like I was never like into skating or anything like that. And so I just was like, oh, this looks kind of fun. It has Darth Maul in it. Okay. So I got Pro Skater 3 on PlayStation 2, and I loved it. It was so fun. It was just one of those games that it was just, you could just play it and just turn your brain off a little bit. And I never played another one again, but I played that one just so much. And so when they showed this and showed how pretty it looks now, it was just like, man, this is actually surprisingly really nostalgic for me. I kind of want this.
The graphic update is, I mean, obviously it's older to newer, but even on new standards, it looks really good.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to get it just because it's super nostalgic. And I think personally, it would be a fantastic game to stream together because they've got horse as one of the, or at least in 3, they had horse. This is just an example of the game modes where basically one person does a trick until they stop earning points. So you could do like, you could grind a rail, then hop off the rail with a kickflip, then go into a manual, and then since you're still generating points on the manual, you could go on and do another grind. You could just stack it on stacks on stacks on stacks, basically. But once you stop earning points, that is your score. Then the next player has to beat that score, and until someone fails to beat the score set before them, when they finally fail to do that, they get a letter going up to horse. So what I would do, I would play this with my friends locally, where we would just take turns. And we would play horse on the different maps. And my favorite thing to do, there was an airport map, and there was a baggage claim that was just a circle. Like it was just, and so my character that I made for myself, like his best thing was grinding, like to where I could just stack up so many points from just grinding rails. And so I would go up to the baggage claim, and I would just start a grind. And I would just keep going in circles. I would just go around and around. And then one of my special moves was called the Dark Jedi Grind. It's a Darth Maul thing where he does he does flips, like jump kicks basically while grinding. And so I would go back in a manual, and then I would go into a Dark Jedi Grind and just start stacking the points until it just was not possible to beat me. And so I would just hop off and be like, beat that. And I was really good at horse because of that reason. So I'm hoping horse is coming back because that would be such a fun stream. Just doing horse on Tony Hawk.
Ladies and gentlemen, look forward to Extra Life Year 3 for Chortle Games because it's going to be full of some Tony Hawk, I'm sure. If it comes out by then. I don't even know when it's coming out. I don't think they said. Did they say? I don't think they said. I'm going to look back.
I don't think they said. It'll probably be early fall because if you pre-order, I think they said during the summer you get access to the very first ever Tony Hawk level. Like you can play it in free play probably. So the game is very playable right now. So I assume it would be out by fall.
One would hope. Anyway,
it seems like a September game.
Yeah, September sounds good. All right, then the next thing that we got from good old Jeff Keighley's
Dorito Pope, personal friend of Hideo Kojima, his name be praised.
Personal. Yep. The next thing the next day he did another stream that he said was going to be an hour long, and it ended up being the reveal of Epic Games' first look at the Unreal Engine 5, played live on a PS5. So this is weirdly,
you just rhymed so many times. Unreal Engine 5 played live on a PS5.
I'm a rapper and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? I can rhyme anytime. So this is one of the first gameplay examples on PS5 that we've gotten to see, which I think is really, really weird. And some people have, before we just dive into what it was and what they showed and how cool it was, Some people have talked about this, and apparently, you remember that GDC talk that I think it was Mark Cerny gave about the details of the PS5?
Yes.
And then they like shadow dropped the DualSense controller, kind of just posted a blog about that.
Right.
A lot of people think that at GDC, Sony was going to have Mark Cerny's talk, reveal the PS5 DualShock or the DualSense controller, and Epic was going to show this Unreal Engine 5 because this was a GDC thing they were going to show. They were going to have all that at GDC, and that would have been like the first like big look at PlayStation 5. But that didn't happen because of COVID. So that's kind of an interesting thing about all this. But anyway, they showed a demo called Lumen in the Land of Niente, which is a fully playable demo, which I can't wait to play when I have a PS5. But basically, it just shows the power of the Unreal Engine 5. They've got two new tools. One is Lumens, which is a dynamic global illumination tool, and then Niente, which is a virtualized geometry that lets artists import film quality art and assets into Unreal Engine. They talked a lot about triangles. I think there were like 7 trillion triangles in that demo or something like that.
Hundreds of billions of triangles in the entire level.
Lots and lots and lots of triangles. So anyway, they showed a cool demo and basically just kind of broke down, looking at the detail of stuff and the billions and billions of triangles and all this and that. It was, let me just say this. It looks really good, but the fact that it's just a demo and it's really just showcasing what it can do, I'm very excited for games to be made with this because it looked amazing. I mean, I think when we first saw, oh, this is Epic Games. Oh, they're talking about Unreal Engine. Okay. Like, I think you and I and Brody, we're always chatting on text during these things. I think we were all ready to make fun of this. And then immediately we were all just like, oh my God, this looks so good. Holy crap, what is this? Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
In my defense, whenever I see Epic Games, my brain, I can't control this. It's an impulse. My brain immediately wants to shut off because it says Fortnite.
Right.
But then when they said Unreal, I was like, oh, okay. New Unreal? And so I was tuned in when I realized that this was not a Fortnite thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that came out of this is that Fortnite will be coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X, and it will be upgrading to the Unreal Engine 5. Weirdly enough, this is going to launch in 2021, which I'm not sure. I doubt that's a COVID-related thing, but it's weird that the consoles are going to launch. Well, I guess it's not that weird because they're going to launch in about November. So you'd have November, December, and then if it came in June of 2021, or not June, January of 2021. Anyway, I digress. It's just weird that this isn't going to just be a launched on PS5 thing, but whatever, or on the next consoles. But anyway, I digress. It won't be that long. It'll be a year, into the life, and it'll happen. But anyway, I thought it looked really cool. I was really disappointed that this was not like a game announcement because I thought the demo that they showed looked really cool. When she started flying at the end, I was sold on this game. And so to find out it was only a demo is a little sad to me. But anyway, Steven, did you have any other thoughts on that demo or Unreal Engine 5?
Just go watch it. If you're remotely curious, just go watch it. They use a lot of technical babble, but they do a good job of like visualizing what the technical babble means.
Right.
They say triangles a lot.
They do. They're really proud of their triangles.
Yeah, it's really interesting on a technical level because it sounds like they're going to make it to where, like, we've seen that level of visualization from games, like, kind of. Like, Division comes to mind. Division does a really good job with dynamic lighting because of Snowdrop and stuff, but it seems like a lot of that was handcrafted.
Right.
Whereas with Unreal 5, it looks like this is all going to be in-engine to be very dynamic, to where it requires less work to make it look so dynamic because it's just there. Whereas Snowdrop seems like it was a lot more like intentional, like this is the way this needs to be, rather than just kind of creating a space. for that kind of dynamic lighting and whatnot. So
Right.
it really it's just, it's not to be like, because it looked great, it really did. But don't go in expecting like the prettiest game you've ever seen. Go in expecting to hear about why it's technically impressive and why it's good news, not necessarily for the gamer, but for the people who make games, in turn, the gamer.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, yeah, through them, it's good for us because games,
exactly.
It's going to be easier to make games look that good.
Right. That's a very short way of saying what I was trying to say. Yeah.
I'm very good at concise.
They're raising the threshold of quality for
that is why
games
Steven
that
is the writer and I am the editor. Okay, that's it for news. Steven, let's catch up. I have not been playing very much because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I've been working on lots and lots of projects. So I'm going to go first, get my stuff out of the way because I think you're going to talk a lot more than I will. So we're all in quarantine, right? Here in Mississippi, that's starting to lighten up a lot. Places are starting to open back up. A lot of people are still working from home, but I think a lot of those are starting to open back up. But my wife is still working at home, and so we've been working on some around the house projects. So if you watch TikTok or are a TikTok fan, you can search at Lee, that's Leigh _ Allison, Alison. And you can follow her on TikTok, and you can see all the projects we've been working on. But our backyard was pretty atrocious when we bought the house, and Lee, Allison, and I are not very big outdoor people, so we don't really go outside very much. So we kind of were just like, we're just going to not worry about this until we decide what we want to do in the backyard. And so we've now decided that we want to build a fire pit patio with a hammock and a swing and some like patio seats. And so once we decided we wanted to do that, it was like, oh, okay, now we've got to clean up the backyard. So, we literally had grass that was up to our waist that had grown back there, and weeds and snakes and all sorts of stuff. So for the past several weekends, we've been working on that. But particularly this past week, we decided that we wanted to clean up our deck and get it with some patio furniture so that we could like have dinner out there if we wanted to. So the very first part of that was to pressure wash the deck. And I thought that would be like a one night, one afternoon deal. It took me 3 days to get that thing clean. A total of 8 hours spent cleaning that back deck. And that was just pressure washing, because then after I pressure washed, I had to sand the whole deck, which took me about 2 days, so about 6 hours or so. And then we still need to stain and seal that, but we've been delayed by rain. So I'm kind of waiting for that to all pass over so we can stain and seal. But we've already added posts. We're going to be stringing like outdoor lights over the deck, so it's going to have this cool like string light atmosphere. So we did that this week, and then this weekend I rented a garden tiller, which is like this. It kind of looks like a lawnmower, but it's got like really big blades at the front that just kind of dig the earth up and kind of till up the earth. And so I used that all Saturday for about 5 hours. I tilled up the whole backyard and we spread grass. Now, Steven, I assume that I know the answer to this, but have you ever used a garden tiller?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, the TikTok is not out yet, but I can't wait to hear if I used it incorrectly or not, because it was miserable. It was the most intense labor I think I've ever done in my life. I am still incredibly sore. I talked about on the live stream that I did Saturday, I couldn't feel my thumb when I was done. for whatever reason. I like I was in so much pain and just was in so exhausted. It was rough. I have blisters on my hands. Like, it was such intense work. And I was so frustrated because you would think when you have a giant machine that can do this, it should be easy. You should just push it and let it go. But the way it worked, and again, I can't wait to hear how wrong I was using it. But if you just held the go button and let it go, it just kind of it looked like those lizards, Steven, that can like run across water, the Jesus fish, or Jesus, not Jesus fish, Jesus lizards. That's what it looked like. It wasn't really affecting the ground. It just kind of was going over the ground. Now, I don't know if that's because our dirt was not moist enough. It had just rained. So, like, I've been told by neighbors that our soil, like, just in the neighborhood, does not retain water well. So, it could just be that our soil is incredibly dry. But anyway, what I had to do was I hit the go button, and then I had to pull with all my might back so that it didn't just take off. And I had to let it sit in one spot till it like dug a little hole. And then I'd have to slowly let it go forward while still like holding back with all my might, to let it inch forward and slowly dig down as it went forward. So it was so incredibly tiresome and painful, and I hate it, and I never want to do it again. If someone needs their yard tilled, do not call me. Do not let me know about it. It was miserable, and I never want to do it again. But that's done. We've planted grass. We just have to wait for the grass to grow. Hopefully it will grow. If it doesn't, I'm done. We're just going to build the back patio, and whatever grows back there grows, and that's just how it's going to be. But anyway, all that to say, I've been doing a lot of project work, which has been fun. I'm really excited to see what we end up with. I'm really excited about our patio on our deck stuff, because that's going to look really cool, and I'm excited to eat out there and just kind of spend time out there. But anyway, it's been really, really cool, really fun. I've been watching Westworld. That's the only real watching I've been doing. Catching up on season 3. So far, I don't know if I like it or not. It's almost trying to think of a show that it reminds me of, but it's almost like someone created a new show and it's like, here's this new show starring your favorite characters from Westworld, and it's just weird to see them out of Westworld, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I feel like that show's kind of fallen off, and I've heard people haven't liked season 3 as much anyway. So I'm curious to get to the end of it, but so far it's just kind of meh for me. But anyway, Steven,
that's one of the reasons why I don't do any of these HBO shows, because they really don't know how to stick the landing.
Apparently not. Apparently they don't. There is a pretty funny Game of Thrones reference in there, though. They come to a medieval world, and medieval world has been canceled, and so they're getting rid of stuff. And one of the techs who like repairs the robots when they're broken, he's like, "Hey, I got a buyer on eBay," and they're like, "How are you gonna ship this to somebody?" And and he says, "In pieces," and then like the person that was obstructing your view of that conversation walks away. And you see these two techs, and they're standing in a room with a huge dragon it's Drogon from Game of Thrones, and the dragon kind of is like, "Woo-hoo." So pretty funny. But anyway, good stuff. Steven, you've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So they announced Valhalla, and I'm just like, oh, cool, another Assassin's Creed game. Gosh, I remember when I actually liked those games, and then it kind of hit me. Oh, hey, a great forward compatible would be Assassin's Creed Unity. The last time I actually remember enjoying Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. So I started Unity, and I was like, oh, hey, I really miss this franchise. Oh, hey, Uplay Plus is $7. Oh, look, every Assassin's Creed game is on here. Let's download Rogue, Origins, Odyssey. and just play all of them at the same time. And that's what I'm doing because I relapsed hard.
You did. Really, really hard.
And I've been just diving back into Assassin's Creed to just kind of see what I missed. And I forgot how much I love it. Unity has been great, but more on that when the review comes out for forward compatible. But I was surprised, at least with the initial stuff for Origins, how much it still felt like Assassin's Creed. Not necessarily gameplay-wise, but story-wise. I really liked Bayek, even though people said that he was one note. He kind of had to be. Not every assassin can be Ezio or Arno. Some assassins are Altair. Doesn't make them worse characters. And that's kind of how Bayek was. So I like that. Really surprised with how much I like Rogue. Because I still very much dislike Black Flag because it really just doesn't feel. It feels like it was injected into Assassin's Creed, pretty much. Not an Assassin's Creed game that happens to be a pirate game. It was a pirate game that happens to be Assassin's Creed game. Yeah. But Rogue, story-wise, ties in really well to where it feels like it fits. And since you're playing as a Templar, it kind of makes some of the pirate stuff a little better, I think. But then I played Odyssey. I can't remember the last time I've loved playing a game that I hate so much. Because it's a really fun gameplay loop. It's a good RPG. It is the worst Assassin's Creed game I have ever played. Every single time I hear more about this game, it pisses me off. Because people are just like, oh yeah, it's Cassandra's the one that's canon, but it doesn't make any sense story-wise. It makes sense narratively that Alexios would be canon, and Alexios was on the cover of the game. And this isn't the thing that pisses me. This is just annoying. I'll get to the things that piss me off. Alexios is on the cover of the game. He's on the main menu of the game. Cassandra is promoted basically nowhere, but Ubisoft is just like, oh yeah, Cassandra's canon because people liked her voice actress better. Stupid. Stand by your work, Ubisoft. Come on. Like that's why we're in the mess that we're in right now, but whatever. I talked with Kalen a lot about this, about Odyssey just in general as a game. It's a good RPG. With you can be a like frontline warrior with all these different weapons. You can be a hunter in the back with a bow and arrow. You can be an assassin, which it's basically an RPG that has decent stealth mechanics, but it's it's not a good Assassin's Creed game. Because like there are times when you try to assassinate something, and by times I mean usually, where you try to assassinate something, and if you hit them, you just kind of stab them, and they're just like, ah, that hurt. Now here's fire breath, which is really like fire arrows, but it feels like you're getting literal fire breathed on you, and then you die. If someone spots you, which the line of sight is awful, everyone spots you. So it's like, great. Awesome stealth for an Assassin's Creed game. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The things that piss me off the most about this game, as your typical RPG, you pick your character. Which they say you're either Alexios, who is this personality, or you're Cassandra, who's this personality. And by that they mean you play boy or you play girl. Zero personality for these characters. They are literally, you know that show Ed, Edd n Eddy? The Plank of Wood? Yeah, that character has more character than Alexios and Cassandra. I've never even seen an episode from that show, but I feel like I know that character better than I know Alexios and Cassandra.
Wow. Okay.
I hate both of them. The dialogue is bad. They take this game that's supposed to be centered in Greek mythology, and they make it to where every character is hateable, and they try to be funny. It's completely tone deaf. Like, I don't know what this game wants me to feel 80% of the time. But what I feel is anger, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the intended emotion. The fact that you can pick Alexios or Cassandra breaks Assassin's Creed, because Assassin's Creed, I've probably said this in a podcast before. I've said this several times, but I'm just going to say it again. Assassin's Creed is reliving history. Right. The entire point of Assassin's Creed is you go back through the memory within your genes, and you live the life of a person that exists, with air quotes. And you see how they influenced history and who they were and the struggles they went through. Arno is a great example of this from Assassin's Creed Unity. I really like Arno's character, and it helps make Assassin's Creed fresh when every character you're playing as is a different character, because Arno and Ezio are kind of similar in that they're both kind of wisecracking and cunning, and they were both orphaned, and they kind of had to learn for themselves a little bit. Ezio is more charming and charismatic. Arno is a detective. Those are two really big differences that make the gameplay different, even though these games are completely different because Unity was really different. But my point is, Assassin's Creed games felt different from game to game because you were playing someone different.
Right.
Connor from 3 was a hunter. He was Native American and assassin. So he had a lot of these different activities that he did that differed from Ezio, Arno, Shay, whoever. So when you take an Assassin's Creed game and you make it to where not only are you picking the character that you're living the life of, which makes it to where canon is just gone, which is supposed to be really important for Assassin's Creed, but also, hey, you get to determine what kind of person they were because dialogue choices. And it's like, okay, cool. So my character is no one. I am literally just insert for myself in history, which makes it not history. It makes it fiction that's not even trying to be history. It's just dumb. It's so dumb because now they've made it to where Assassin's Creed, from a story stance, has nothing new to offer. Because every time from this point on, probably, I don't know this for a fact, this is just what Ubisoft does, they trend like this. From this point on, it's going to be, you're playing as boy or girl, and you get to choose what kind of person they were. And that makes it so boring. Because I wouldn't have liked Arno as much, I wouldn't have remembered Arno as much, or Ezio, or Altair, or any of them, if I got to determine what kind of person they were. It is a role-playing game. You're playing the role of a person that they have written for you because it's their story. Story is a thing. You remember Story, Jake? You remember Story? Story was cool. He was cool.
Was great.
Why did we kill him? We liked him.
I'm sure there's lots of factors, but I think, and we've talked about this before, but I feel like with Black Flag, which I enjoyed Black Flag, but I kind of what you were saying of, they wanted to make a pirate game, and so they chose to make an Assassin's Creed pirate game. And then it's kind of funny. Then they decided, well, what if we just made a pirate game? Like, what if we just made a new IP that was a pirate game? And that's how we got Skull and Bones, which still hasn't happened yet. But, that I feel like they took what they learned in Assassin's Creed and made a new thing out of it. Whereas I enjoyed Black Flag, but it's almost like, why didn't they just make a pirate game if that's what they wanted to make? And same with Odyssey.
Right.
And really Origins, which I agree with you. I think Origins felt more like Assassin's Creed, but just changed the mechanics entirely. With that, and then transitioning and taking that even further in Odyssey, it's almost like, why didn't they just make a new IP for this? And funnily enough, we've got Gods and Monsters coming out.
Gods and Monsters, yep.
Which I really do think, I wonder how much of what they did in Odyssey was testing the waters of, are people interested in this? Would people enjoy this kind of like environment and storytelling and all this sort of thing? And so, which who knows what Gods and Monsters is really going to be like, but
you just know that that's exactly what they were doing, because Ubisoft does this, where like Origins, for example, it shoehorned in the loot rarity and all that kind of stuff, but at least it still felt Assassin's Creed because narratively it felt that way. It pushed the story forward in certain ways. you played as a character who had a story to live. But also you were still using tools like an assassin. You could still assassinate. You there were those elements that still made it feel like Assassin's Creed, but different. Its own thing. And then Ubisoft does this to where they sacrifice their IPs to either go into trends or test the water for something else or whatever. They don't care about the integrity of their games. Rainbow Six Siege, they wanted to make a competitive shooter like Counter-Strike because there is money in Counter-Strike and in competitive gaming. So they were like, oh yeah, we got this Rainbow Six thing. I mean, we're only in the process of making a game that would change the way FPS games do storytelling in Rainbow Six Patriots. Nah, we don't need that. There are enough stories. Let's kill that guy's story. Who likes story? So we don't have Rainbow Six Patriots anymore. We instead get Ubisoft Presents Counter-Strike.
Right.
And that's what Ubisoft does now. And it drives me nuts because I love these games. Ghost Recon was a 4-player co-op tactical shooter. Now it's 4-player Grand Theft Auto with stealth, basically. And guess what? It has loot rarity now. Assassin's Creed became the pirate game because every game felt like it needed to shoehorn in that ship combat. And it was testing the waters for Skull and Bones. Far Cry has RPG mechanics now. God knows why. It drives me up the wall because if they had taken, and I texted you guys this earlier this week, if they had taken Odyssey and they had been like, let's just not make this an Assassin's Creed game. Let's make it just a Greek mythology RPG that may have some similarities to Assassin's Creed, but hey, we're Ubisoft. We bleed over game mechanics all the time, and sometimes it really works.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't. When you end up with a purple level 34 toothpick that's better than your green level 20 sniper rifle. I don't know. But so sometimes it works, and they really could have done that here because in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, story-wise, they have to make this rich mythology that is Greek mythology, and they have to make it Assassin's Creed. They have to make it to where there is an explanation for the Greek pantheon. Zeus, I almost said Odin, Zeus, Poseidon, Nyx, all that kind of stuff. They have to explain them through the Assassin's Creed rulebook. And that also makes it to where in gameplay, you can't do these crazy cool things that you would think of from like Hades. Hades is a great example of taking the Greek pantheon and doing really cool things with their power sets. In Assassin's Creed, it's, Ares has a battle cry, so it makes it to where you do more damage for a few seconds, or you can get Nyx's power by standing still and being invisible. Like, it's just really superficial stuff. But just imagine, Jake, if they had been like Greek mythology game where mythology is real.
I don't have to imagine it. It's what gods and monsters will be.
But like, why did we need to do this? Why did we need to ruin an Assassin's Creed game? And now, because Odyssey did well, they're going to be like, well, you know what? Assassin's Creed Odyssey did so well because people just love Assassin's Creed and all of these things that don't belong in Assassin's Creed. So let's just make another one. That's how this crap happens because Ubisoft has no spine.
I hope, and we may have already said this on the podcast, but I do hope that with Valhalla, they are going to take elements of Origins and Odyssey that worked, but dial it back and try to bring it back to the Assassin's Creed roots. Because I remember when Odyssey was announced, I had just played Origins, and seeing everything, I was just like, this looks just like Origins. It's Origins 2, but with pick your own character and all this other stuff that really did not feel at all like Assassin's Creed. And so I never picked it up, and I don't necessarily intend to or plan to, but
it is so much more because like I didn't play Origins very much, but I did like watch a review of Origins compared to Odyssey, and they said like in Origins you are still like human. You are an assassin, you're very capable, but you feel grounded. In Odyssey, you are a walking superhero demigod, basically. Because you get something at level 20 which the cap is like 60, I think. You get something level 20 that makes it to where you just don't take fall damage anymore. Period. So you can just literally leap of faith off a cliff, but there's no hay at the bottom. And you do a couple flips on your way down, and then you superhero landing. It's so dumb. Because it's like, it's two concepts that separately work really well, but forcing them to be together makes it to where they are both working with their arm tied behind their back, but their legs are also tied together. So you've got like this amalgamation that's like a three-legged race, but the people have their arms tied behind their backs, so they have to grab things with their mouth. That's what Assassin's Creed Odyssey is. It's that. But it's really fun. I'm really enjoying it. And I just hate every second of my enjoyment. I feel dirty enjoying it.
Go take a shower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with friends, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on at Chortle Games on Facebook. You can also like, share, follow the page, all that good stuff. All of our live streaming goes to YouTube and Facebook. And then also Twitch, twitch.tv/Chortle_games. You can watch our live streams there. We do lots and lots of stuff. We can't post the podcast there yet because we need more people chatting when we play Twitch and do live streams. So if you like Twitch and you want to watch us on Twitch, feel free to do that. Steven, was that a chuckle at if you like Twitch?
No, that was a burp, but yeah, if you like Twitch, you're wrong.
There you go. Well, there you go. He said it. Anyway, no, yes, for real though, go watch us on Twitch and chat so we can get the podcast on there. Let me see, what else do I normally say? Discord. We've got Discord. If you want to join that, hang out with us during the week, you can join that in the description of this video. We post memes. We let you vote on what we're live streaming that night. It's just a great place for us to connect to you guys, so be sure to jump in and join that. We got a great community there, so you'll be welcomed with warm open arms, virus-free open arms. I think that's it. This is not the only thing we do on the channel. We live stream throughout the week. Right now, Steven is doing Forward Compatible, which is our review series for Assassin's Creed Unity, which we've talked about. So he's live streaming a lot more frequently, playing that game. So throughout the week, you'll see him going live for that. So be sure to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you want to watch those. We appreciate people watching and commenting on those. It helps Steven with the review. So be sure to tune in for that. And then Friday and Saturday, Steven and I split the streams, but we normally stream on Friday and Saturday. Around 7 o'clock Central Standard Time is usually when we go live. So one of us will be streaming both one of those nights each. Does that make sense? I'll be doing Friday or Saturday, and Steven will do the other, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Jake will do one. I'll do the other.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Steven. You're the editor this time. Anyway, yeah, we live stream. Come hang out. It's a lot of fun. That's going to be it for today's podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. Steven, thank you for being here or not being here because, COVID. I was saying when we first started this, I was like, Steven, you and I have been doing distance podcasting for longer than anyone else, and I feel like we're still struggling to get the sync right. Doing the count. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll figure it out one day. Cool. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time. Bye.